But to me, I think a story that we have to highlight is this ongoing masquerade that we are being inundated with. And again, I am not anti-mask. I don't believe any of us has a right to not be inconvenienced during extraordinary times like, say, the worst pandemic in a century, or at least the worst since the Hong Kong flu a half a century ago. I don't think we're entitled to not be inconvenienced when matters of public health are at stake. I don't. I do think, though, we are entitled to the truth. I think we're entitled to real science, not junk science, not scientism, not your latest pseudo-political cult and its latest talisman. I do think we're entitled to know what's live and what's Memorex, what's real and what's fake. Let's start talking about, shall we, Hawaii. Let's start there. Hawaii has mostly isolated itself from the mainland for months now. It is over 2,000 miles away from its closest neighbor. It has had some form of mask mandate since April 20th. I repeat, since April 20th. They have been under some form of escalating mask mandate in Hawaii. And yet, despite 2,000 miles of social distancing, despite being a series of islands that allow social distancing to be even more simple to accomplish, shutting itself off from the mainland, and over 3 months of a mask mandate, look at that chart. Hawaii is now seeing a 700% increase. 700% increase in coronavirus cases. Now, for months, American media, pseudo-experts have been touting Hong Kong's success using masks to push back on the virus, talking about what a glorious, enlightened, progressive people and expert class they have in Hong Kong. Here are just some examples. Time magazine on March 12th, why wearing a face mask is encouraged in Asia but shunned in the US, highlighting Hong Kong. CNN, of course, on April the 1st, Asia may have been right about coronavirus and face masks, and the rest of the world is coming around. Also, a filleting of Hong Kong's mask practices. The Wall Street Journal on April the 8th. To curb the coronavirus, Hong Kong tells the world masks work. Vanity Fair on May 8th. If 80% of Americans wore masks, like they do in Hong Kong, COVID-19 infections would plummet, new study says, which cited Hong Kong. How about the Los Angeles Times on May 16th? Wondering if LA's new masks rules are overkill? Look at the Hong Kong example. Do it for the greater good, like they do it in Hong Kong. Don't do it like they do on the Discovery Channel. Do it like they do in Hong Kong. Yes. Our friends, of course, at Vox. There cannot be a virtue signal that Vox, of course, doesn't bow the knee to. How masks helped Hong Kong control the coronavirus. Back on May the 18th. The IHME modelers themselves, who for reasons only Allah knows, never mentioned masks in their original models in March, April, and May. But then all of a sudden showed up in this Journal of Global Health at the end of June, on the 25th of June, to tell us all, hey, masks are the easy way to save lives and spare jobs, even though we didn't tell you that for 3 months during our modeling. But it is now, and Hong Kong is your primary example of how that works. Let's go to July 3rd. NPR piles on. Widespread use of face masks like they do in Hong Kong could save tens of thousands of lives, these models project using the numbers from, again, Hong Kong. The Washington Post on July the 20th. Unlike the United States, more and more countries are making masks mandatory. You American rubes. You American rubes, why won't you be more like they are in Asia? Where they're so short of new children, they have to import wives from other countries. Why won't you be more like them? So how did Hong Kong's devotion to the mask, how did it do up against the virus? Well, here we are. Hong Kong is, quote, on the verge of an outbreak that could lead to its hospital system's collapse, Chief Executive of Hong Kong's Medical Association says. So the masks work in Hong Kong until they don't. Hawaii, folks, did a preemptive mask mandate for months, preemptively masking up when its cases were low. That didn't work. And it's seeing a 700% spike in cases now. Hong Kong was supposedly setting the mask example for the world for months. That didn't work. It's on its third wave of lockdowns, and its hospital system is about to implode. That means, folks, the verdict is in. These mask holes don't know what the hell they're talking about. Period.